Welcome. This is Money Heart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing Break Free from Money Chains. My guest is Jessica Hammock. She's a licensed professional counselor and clinical certified trauma therapist, emotional mastery coach, speaker, and author. Chief creator and visionary of Vibrant Voice. Jessica has over 15 years of experience in education as a teacher, counselor, and mental health specialist. She's married to her husband, Aaron, of 15 years, and has an 8-month-old miracle baby, Hope Elizabeth. Jessica, welcome to Money Heart.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited that you're here too. And I love this idea of breaking free from money change and money trauma. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. This is your specialty. I mean, this is like your thing is how we get past this trauma. You're a trauma specialist. So talk a little bit about how trauma relates to money, and then let's get into how it impacts our behaviors and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think when people think about trauma, they think so much about like specific events or things like that. They talk about, I have PTSD and different things like that. But in my study of trauma, what I've learned is that trauma is anything that we had an expectation about that there caused a break in that expectation. So we have an injury to our nervous system. So it's not necessarily just big events. We actually can have quite a bit of trauma in our system related to money. And we don't actually pay attention to that because we're thinking about, oh, I was traumatized from a relationship or something happened to me or I went through war, or I was in a car accident. All those things
Mhm.
are big things that we talk about, but this relationship that we have to money can cause quite a bit of trauma in our life.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I never thought about it before of if we have an expectation of something and then that expectation doesn't get met, things go drastically different, that's going to create trauma. Like that had not occurred to me before. It's so interesting.
Yeah. I think we don't think of the relationship we have so much with money. And I know you spend a lot of time educating people in that, exploring that, which that is huge because we need more of that. And so much of our funny money, I like to call it, situations that we end up in are really because we have trauma with something related to money, whether it's our capacity to earn money, the situations that we're in with how we receive money or lack thereof, where we want to go in life, really we tie it to a job or a career or a skill set, something else, but when it's actually related to our beliefs and our values and our connection to the money itself.
Yes, absolutely. It all is related for sure. So when when we have a money trauma, what happens? Like, how do we even know? I'm guessing most of us have had money trauma at some point. But how do we know? How do we even identify this?
Yeah.
How do we know it's still affecting us? Let's go there.
Yeah. Okay, so if I say the word money to you,
Yeah.
does something in your body go, like have this instant seize? First of all,
Yeah.
that's our nervous system reacting. So, first and foremost, if your nervous system reacts, maybe your heart beats faster, maybe you feel tension, stress, maybe you start to feel some those physical symptoms, your physiological body changes, and you have headaches, you have instant anxiety, tension, depression, sadness, those are results of having a money trauma. Now, a lot of times we just think we tie it to, we excuse it by something else, right? We say, I don't have a good enough job, or I don't have skills to manage my money, or it's just it's just the way it is. We tie it to that. Well, what that actually is a belief system. So sometimes the money trauma enters in because of generational things, like we generationally taught through a family line, this is how you respond with money. We look at things and say, well, I don't have the money to do that, or that's too expensive. Language is evidence there's also a money trauma stored somewhere,
Mm,
because that is kind of the outward thought, the thoughts that come out of our mouth.
yeah.
What comes out of our mouth is a reflection of what we believe and think, and
Mhm.
that's what we act on. So when we say, well, I don't have enough money for that, that's a belief system somewhere. Or when we even justify purchases like, oh, well, I just wanted to treat myself, or I earned this money, so I'm going to do what I need to, or I got this on sale. like even discounting it. So not even taking into account, like, we have a relationship, we've made a choice with our money and how to spend it. When we kind of discount ourselves and our purchases and different things, or we have to justify them, that's also kind of like an indicator of money trauma.
Okay, so this is really interesting because I'm feeling like you probably just like flipped over a whole bunch of people's money carts right there. They're just like, wait, what? I got this on sale is indicating money trauma like that. That's kind of like a big thing that you, so let's go a little bit deeper into that. So if I'm understanding correctly, when you buy something, when you spend money on something, if you are doing it from a place where you're going back looking at that purchase and going, well, it was on sale, so it's okay. Or, oh, I really needed that, so it's okay. That is evidence of money trauma.
Yeah, because you've created this belief system that in order to justify your purchase, you have to have some reason as to why it's acceptable. And usually that was a training or a belief system that entered in because somebody had that's kind of more of like a generational response to money, and this fear that's entered in that I'm not going to have enough, or I didn't allocate my money well, or I didn't spend it wisely. That's change in the expectations. So there's an injury to the nervous system, there's an injury to the belief system that, one, I have what it takes to spend money well, I can make wise choices with my money. And so we do that preemptively because a lot of times we believe that people will have negative responses towards us if they
Mhm.
find out we made those purchases, which incites a whole type of body trauma inside of us. An injury to our nervous system gets inflamed. Like, maybe you're talking to a spouse, or you're talking to your parents, or you're talking to your friends, and it's this justification, like, why do we not feel that we have enough worth and value to make purchases that we desire or that we need,
Mhm.
right? And usually that
Wow.
comes because there's a trauma there.
Okay, that I feel like this is really huge. I'm like, whoa, we just got right into this. Because
Yeah.
I'm imagining, how many times that somebody in a relationship gets something, and then I mean, you see this all over social media, right? People making fun of it. Like, how much was that? I'm sorry, what? Well, how much was that? I don't remember. Like,
Yeah,
it's just like a because we don't want to admit to having spent certain amount of money, and even it's like even if it's $20,
right.
which is
It's
not a massive purchase, people will still like, oh, I don't, it was on sale, you
yeah.
know?
It's tied up with fear and judgment, and then we torment ourselves in our mind internally. But it's caused a break of peace in our relationships with ourselves. So by nature, in the trauma perspective, just generally, we're wired for peace and joy, contentment, satiety. So our system is wired to exist at a peaceful place. Anything that escalates that and continues to move outside of that and cause us to function in fight or flight creates an opening for a trauma to occur. So when we have these purchases and all of a sudden we're having to justify it with somebody else and be like, oh, it's on sale, or oh, I don't remember, or let's really dive in deep and push some buttons where we make a lot of purchases and take them home and hide them in the closet so nobody finds them, and then we all of a sudden had them for a long time, quote
Oh,
unquote.
yep. You got to get home before the other person does so you can get the Amazon box off the porch before they see it. Yep.
That's a trauma response to money.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, I'm guessing everyone listening is like hanging their head. Like, I mean, I'm not saying everyone, it's gonna be like 99% of everybody
Yeah,
listening is like, oh, I've done that.
yeah.
No, like so so I have so many
I'm
questions because a part of me is like, how is this so widespread? Why are all of us feeling like, wait, why is she attacking me right now? That's not cool. Even though you're not, you're just saying this is what it is. So
right.
how is it that we have so many of us have these experiences? Because if we're all sharing them and joking about them, then it's clear that they're pretty common.
Yeah,
And then after you kind of talk about like how we have this so widespread, then let's get into, okay, now what do we do? So, but
yeah.
but how is this so prevalent? How are we all hiding the Amazon boxes and stressing over a small item and not wanting to share what we really want to buy and guilting ourselves and thinking about it 2 weeks later, like, oh, if I wouldn't have bought that, I could have had this. Like, what is how are we
Yeah,
doing this to ourselves?
I think I think it's generationally just become a part of our worth and value. That so
Mm.
many systems in our society are tied, our worth and value are tied to the amount of money we have. We've classed people by lower class, middle class, upper class. Let me tell you something, the 2% wealthy people of the world, they don't have those conversations. If they make a purchase, they make a purchase. They own that they made a purchase. They're not talking about hiding the Amazon boxes from their spouse. They went to
Mhm.
Nordstrom's today and spent $1,500. They own that they did that. They recognize that they're operating from a place of sort of a maturity in, this isn't the way it's always been. I'm going to make a different decision for myself. I'm going to own my decisions. And if somebody else has a reaction to me, fear, judgment, frustration, anger, that's a reflection of that person, not a reflection of me and my choices.
I love that.
So a lot of times we continue to perpetuate trauma by owning belief systems instead of stepping in and saying, no, I generationally want to do something different. Now, in the present moment, because of your trauma, you might have a smaller pot to choose from and make your choices. But that doesn't mean that smaller pot of money has to only be there forever, and that you can't grow and expand the pot of money you have access to and hold on to it. We also have these beliefs that we're just living paycheck to paycheck. That is a belief system we keep perpetuating because we had a trauma somewhere else, oftentimes, or we've had a trauma that, for instance, I have a quick example. Somebody I was working with said that they were having struggle in their ability to earn now. And what happened was they had a trauma like 20 or 30 years ago where they needed to earn a certain amount of money in order for something to happen in their life, and they just couldn't make it happen because they were emotionally over capacity.
Mm.
So because they lost out on something really big. And so what they told themselves then was, now I can't earn money even to support myself because I failed at it before.
Wow.
So we keep telling ourselves these stories. Well, I failed at it before. I can't hold on to it. My family couldn't hold on to it. This is how it is. And we don't give ourselves permission to learn a new story, to stop the behaviors and own our choices.
That's super powerful. Let's go about this again. Talk about what we can do to start to change this, because you just said learn a new story, own our choices. What did you say?
Yeah.
Change
Change our behaviors.
change our
Yeah.
behaviors. Yes. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
making sure I'm getting it. I'm like, okay, let me process. So,
No, I know. So first of all, it does come with a recognition. If you're just coming into this new information and
yes,
it's landed you flat on your backside because you're
right.
like, she said all the things and now I'm traumatized from
She's,
hearing all of
I'm
that.
traumatized about my trauma. She said so much stuff.
First
Yeah.
of all, I'll say take a slow breath
Yes,
and
yes.
just, okay. I always believe that there's sort of this grace period for us once we learn new information to begin to walk it out. So you don't have to fix it all today. Okay. The
I love
first thing
that.
you
Oh, I
want,
love that so much. I'm using
yeah,
that from now on.
yeah,
I'm telling people it's okay. There's a grace period. You just learn
yeah,
new information. You can give yourself
yeah,
a moment to figure that
yeah.
out. Yes.
All throughout life, no matter where we're at and what scenario we're in, there is always this idea of a grace period. When you learn new information in school, we're typically not tested on it the next day. We have
Right.
time to apply it, study it, unpack it, apply it to us, and then we're given the test, so to speak.
Yeah.
And all throughout life, most times in most circumstances, if you fail the test, you're given an opportunity to retake it again.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
somehow we've ingrained in ourselves that if we fail this money thing, we're a failure forever and we can never recover it. That's just lies, we believe.
Hmm.
Trying to solve these, our mind makes up a lot of stories because our heart has woundings and injuries and pains related to money. So the first thing you want to do is take some time to recognize when you think about money, when you're interacting with money or situations related to money, how are you feeling in your body?
Hmm.
How is your heart feeling, like emotionally speaking? And what are the thoughts running through your brain? If any of those are negative or disruptive, you have work to do to repair it. So recognize is the first step of becoming aware. The second step in that recognition, kind of a subset, is to ask yourself, where did I learn this and who's tied to it? Because oftentimes it's tied to people in our storyline of life,
Mm-hmm.
our parents, grandparents, spouses, exes, children, aunties, uncles, everybody in between, an old boss, whoever.
Yes.
So we need to do some work around releasing those people from our story. And kind of, that's a long, deeper emotional conversation, right? But
Right.
find somebody to help you do that if you don't feel like you have the skill set to do that, to release them from your money story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it is helpful to kind of go back and unpack, where did I learn this? What did they say? Where were my grandparents at in this? Do I know them? Do I know how they talked about money, my parents, all that stuff?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we just repeat what's been around us. And so it may not be our money trauma, but it may have been a couple generations back, and it keeps getting handed down.
Yeah.
The second thing is really to begin to give ourselves a new money story. What is the new money story for us? And there's a ton of books out there, a ton of self-help stuff related to money and the story you want to give yourself. But at the basic level is, when you think about money in your life, wealth, abundance, what do you want that to look like? And sit down and write it out. This is how I want my life to look if I could have the perfect scenario related to money. And some people will say, oh, well, that's greedy, or that's this or that. That's a money story
Circle back to
too.
item one.
Yes. Where did you get that?
Yeah.
Uh, and so write it out. What
Yeah.
does your ideal life look like from the money perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then begin to add, then the kind of the change of behavior comes along. So you look at the behaviors. What am I doing that's not in alignment with what I want or who I want to be in this money story? And the question is, what aligned action can I take to make an adjustment here? Do I, first of all, stop justifying my purchases? Do I stop saying I got this on sale and just say, thanks, I think it looks great too? Or,
Yeah.
I'm happy with my purchase. Start affirming or acknowledging that you made good choices with your money. Another part of this adjusting the behaviors is going back and doing some forgiveness work for yourself, and maybe for some of those people in those lists, and releasing yourself and them from past money choices, cutting the ties. And then part of the last part of the behavior change is resolving any funny money situations you have. And I know I said that and people went like, like they don't open the bill. I'm very surprised at how many people I interact with that look like they lead this fabulous life in real time or in social media, and then I find out later, like, they have stacks of bills, they've never opened their debts, and they don't go check their mail. And
Yes.
that's okay. Baseline, it's time to take responsibility and own it. Forgive yourself for your past mistakes and take responsibility. So open the way to start is to resolve the funny money, is to open every single thing and make a list of all the pieces you owe,
Yeah.
and who you owe it to, and make a decision, a wise decision. This is how much I have in my allocations every month. I don't like the word budget because that makes people cringe and go, that's another whole
Yeah.
trauma too.
Whole nother thing. Because
But
to me, budget
but
is just like a spending plan,
yeah, yeah.
not a
And the
punishment.
2% wealthy of the world have allocations that they send. They have a
Yeah.
certain amount, a percentage
Yeah.
allocated for their debts, and they all have them. The
Mm-hmm.
wealthy have debts, even if we like to think that they don't,
Yeah.
because they recognize that debt helps them build wealth.
It does.
It's not a prison sentence.
Yes.
It is something to help them build wealth. But allocations, I have this much allocated towards debt relief. I have this much allocated towards wealth building activities for me and my family. I
Mm-hmm.
have this much allocated for my basic essentials. I have this much allocated to have in a savings or a charitable giving plan.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe that what we give out does come back to us. So if we're not doing any kind of charitable giving, whatever that looks like for you and your family, that you might want to consider what that looks like for you and your family.
Mhm.
because it's just sowing seed into this idea that you're providing abundance for somebody else. That comes back to you. The universe recognizes that.
Yeah.
Um, so create that. Just take a list. You're just having a business meeting with yourself, and if fear enters in, if judgment enters in, all that stuff, just recognize that's old money story. That's not the new money you. And sit down and say, okay, where am I going to start? What am I going to allocate first? I have this much allocated, even if it's $20. I have $20 allocated. Where do I want to start putting my $20? And I do that until this allocation is taken care of. And when we become available to resolve the funny money stuff, we actually open our heart and mind up to receive more money into us. But right now we've kind of blocked that off because we have unresolved trauma related to money, and we have all this stuff kind of hanging out that we owe. And we have the desire, but until we take those action steps, we're blocked from
Yeah.
receiving more.
Yeah. I found that really surprising as well, of how many people do not open the mail and they just throw it into a pile like, oh, that's a bill, not looking, not looking,
Yeah.
not looking. I'm like, if you're not even looking at it, there's no way we're getting started on fixing this. And I really love the way you phrased it of having a business meeting with yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can think business meeting. I know how to go to a business meeting. I'm going to be professional and we're going to talk about
Yeah.
facts and we're going to get things done and we're going to make some
Mhm.
decisions. And like, yes, you're just having a business meeting. It's not a pity party.
Yeah.
It's not a guilt party. Like we're not hanging out
Every
criticizing
business
ourselves.
looks at their money so that we have profits and losses.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
quarters we have more one than the other. Like
Exactly. It's
you
just like,
know,
hey, where are we at? Let's get an update and let's figure out what we're going to do next. So
there is a lot of people, I think, perpetuate the trauma too, because there's this idea that money and emotions are connected to each other, and we
Mhm.
feel a lot of emotions when we think about money. And the truth is money is just an inanimate object.
Yeah.
We're the ones that attach the money to it. And when we can kind of break that connection to recognize that this is just an object by which I can learn and grow and increase in life, the same way business owners do, it gives us a different set of permissions to participate with it. And if
Yeah.
shame is there, shame is the thing that says I'm bad or wrong because I did this. Remember when we rewrote the money story and we took the action steps to forgive ourselves? That piece right there is what we do to release ourselves from the shame. You are not a bad or wrong person because you landed in this spot, but you heard this now, so now's the time to take ownership a different sort of way and participate differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Just okay. This is where we're at. What are we going to do next?
Yeah.
Not like worrying about how we got here or what happened or anything. Talk a little bit more about how this past money trauma affects our ability to earn more money, because you just touched on it slightly, but I want to talk about that more because I think it's huge. I think people can get stuck in this place and they're like, I never have any money. It's like, well, and it's not coming.
Yeah.
So
It's
how do we
speaking.
change that?
So we make this is kind of like a little bit psychology based. Some people would say, oh, that's a little woo woo. But the truth is like our actions are driven by thoughts. So we have thoughts that produce belief systems that drive our actions, and we kind of keep going on that. But a lot of times where it goes back to is the thoughts that we have are really limiting ourselves from like fears internally that we've stored. And so it's connected to like, do I even believe I can hold money if I get more of it? We kind of internally tell ourselves we're not even able to hold on to what I do have. How am I going to be able to hold on to more of it?
Mm,
Or I have all these debts. If I get more money, people are going to come after me. Or like
mhm.
lottery winners, they're like, oh, now I'm famous. I have all this money. Everybody's going to want a piece of me. Well, that's some thought you stored in there that created a belief system. I can't, I can't earn more money. There was a lady that I know tells a story of like her dad and her used to drive around when they were little, and he would talk about how every time they went in this one neighborhood, he would talk about how those people were dismissive or because they were wealthy. They had houses that were over $250,000. Now this was a long time ago, but she would say how her dad would be like, "Oh, these are like the uppity people of the world, and they treat us differently and all this stuff." Literally for years in her business, she would earn $249,000 and stop. $249,000 and stopped
Wow.
until she connected it to this belief system that if she earned $250,000, all of a sudden she was going to be this awful person.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're an awful person with $50, you're going to be an awful person with $500 million.
Yes, you will.
But if you're a fabulous person who's working through some stuff with $50, you're going to be that same person with $500 million. Let me just tell you that.
Yes, you will.
The
In fact,
character
I
of
feel like the money tends to amplify whatever somebody already
yeah,
is.
yeah,
So if you're an awful person, you get more money, you're going to be a worse awful person. And if you're an amazing person, you get more money, you're going to be a more amazing person because
yeah.
you're just going to do more amazing things.
So the fears that are showing up there are oftentimes what drive that behavior, and you have to really look at like, how am I behaving around money? And do I have trauma responses that are causing me to react this way? How do I resolve those things internally
Mhm.
and have this new money story? We can begin to heal our heart wounds and things like that, tried to trauma around money, and then we feel peace to actually operate with what we need to. And so whatever, wherever path of life you're on, God, the universe, whatever it is that you subscribe to, right? So there's some recognition of, I'm operating in a peaceful place, especially around money. So then money is more attracted to us. Oh, you're going to take care of us. It's an inanimate object, but there's just this flow that we've cleared up. We energetically, science, when you look at the science of it, energetically, we can feel another person's energy up to 6 feet away.
Mhm.
So if they're dysregulated or frustrated or angry, we feel that internally in us. Well, if we're energetically always in fear and frustration around money, we're going to attract those kind of people and hang out with them most often. When we start clearing that stuff up and owning our mistakes or choices and taking responsibility and making changes, you might actually see a shift in the people you're hanging out with. All of a sudden, the information coming to you is different. It's about maybe investing and wealth building, and connections are different. And those other people might have some pushback because all of a sudden you touch something in them that they want and they don't have, and you're on your way to get it.
Yes.
So you just need to know that some of this is clearing that out. And as we begin to clear those things out and work on them and unpack them and change our behaviors, we open ourselves up to receive more because we've given ourselves internal permission to actually handle more.
Yes. Yes. And I love that little reminder that you threw in there because I try to tell people that sometimes too. Like the people around you that you think are you're going to be your biggest supporters and your biggest cheerleaders, they might need some time to come around. They might
Yeah.
not be ready for all this change and all this awesomeness happening for you. And it may, like you said, stir up a bunch of stuff in them that they're going to take it out on you and say things that are more negative to try to bring you back
Yeah.
to where they are comfortable.
That's
But
right.
just keep going because eventually I've seen this happen multiple times. It might take years, but eventually they're like, so what you got going on over there? And they
Yeah.
will they will start to come over
Yeah.
and you can affect change in their lives too. It just takes a minute.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen so much evidence of that. You have to remember why you want to do this in the first place. When you sit down and you write your new money story, or your new story with your new money perspective, that's the goal. That's why you want to do that. You emotionally want to feel the energy in that space. Like when you read that over and over again, keep that in front of you in a mirror. Like don't just write it in a notebook and throw it in the corner. Like you need it present. It's
Yes.
your mission, it's your why. That's what wealthy people do. They have their mission and their why for whatever it is they're doing in life, and they keep getting up and focusing on it. They also use gratitude as a practice. I'm so happy and grateful that I have access to $20 in my allocation to take care of this particular thing, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
recognizing that. And so keeping that why in front of you, and knowing, yes, there will be an ebb and flow of people, but that doesn't have to change who you are in that story.
Absolutely. This is so fantastic. Oh my gosh. I feel like this is the episode that people should listen to several times because we
Yeah.
hit so much stuff. It's like you're gonna get something more if you go
Yes.
back and you're gonna be like, oh, I had it. Was that in there the first time? I think they changed it.
Yeah.
And it's like it was there. You just weren't ready for it yet. So keep going through and like do it again. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. This is so cool. This is so cool. What are you most excited about right now? Like what's going good in your world?
So what I'm most excited about is I actually am launching, and it's not, I know people will listen at different periods of time, so we're just kicking it off in 2023. a new mastermind opportunity for women to be involved in. It's called Reclaim Your Reign, REIGN,
Yes.
like a queen, reclaim your reign.
Yes.
And really recognizing places where we've allowed conflict and fighting and frustration to lead us in our activities, whether that's fighting within ourselves, within our relationships, with the world in general, and to basically come back together to reclaim who we are as the identity of a queen and having access to resources, whether that's emotional, physical, spiritual, mental resources, and move forward in reclaiming the thing that defines who we are as a queen and moving forward in that.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
If it includes any of this, it's going to be a lot of work, but I think it's going to be a
Yes.
super effective mastermind. So it's really cool.
Yes. Yes. So we're super excited about that.
That is awesome. So if you are interested in contacting Jessica, you can do that. The fastest way is to contact her through email. Her email is vibrantvoice20@gmail.com. You can also look her up on her website, www.vibrantvoice.life. Thank you as well to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. I'm a business optimization coach, financial educator, author, and speaker. You can contact me and find out what I'm up to through my website, CamilleDiaz.com, and follow me on social media at Cam Unfiltered. Be sure to follow Money Heart at Money Heart Show, and our website is moneyheartshow.com. Jessica, would you like to share our money mantra for today?
I would love to. My worth and value have nothing to do with the money that I have, keep, or earn. I have exactly what it takes to earn unlimited amounts of money for all that I desire.
Yay, I love that. Thank you.